Okay, welcome. We are continuing on with our Aramaic text. This is the second video I'm doing. If you noticed in the first video, sometimes it's kind of difficult when you read through some of this densely packed information and your eyes can play tricks on you. So I put a couple corrections in there. So I hope that you'll excuse those, but I'm going to continue on and we'll do the best we can here and see what we can find out and discover from this particular text. So this is Lesson 1, Phonology of Biblical Aramaic. So the development of Proto-Semitic consonants. Although the consonants of Biblical Aramaic and Biblical Hebrew develop generally along the same lines from their common Proto-Semitic origin, yet in a few of the consonants, there occurs important divergencies. This development can best be understood by comparing specific consonants in several of the principal Semitic languages. Note that a consonant is velarized or glottalized when there is a glottal catch at the same time the consonant is pronounced. Thus, looks like we got the T sound, D, Z. It could be like Tet, Dalet, or Zayin, potentially sounding. Or we've got some of these symbols here. And S, when so pronounced, become TDZ, and so on here. This development, as generally held by grammarians, is from Proto-Semitic to Ugaritic Hebrew, Aramaic, Akkadian, Arabic, and Ethiopic as follows. Okay, so this is, I guess, the guide that I'll use here. So in Hebrew, this is Zayin, and it's a Z sound, sort of a, I think it's, you can transliterate that as Z-A-Y-I-N, Z. So in Ugaritic, it's D sound. In Aramaic, it's D. It's like a Dalet D sound. And so what they're doing is they're comparing. There's some slight variation between these sounds, these letter sounds. If we go down to the next one, Hebrew, we have another Zayin here. And we've got Z, Z, Z. This is Proto-Semitic, Ugaritic. Aramaic is, in this case, also has a Z sound, okay? We'll go down here to Tav, Hebrew. Just about all these languages match up with the T sound for Tav, for Hebrew. Here's a sheen here, if I could get it to properly identify it. I guess I'll have to use my pen. We've got a scene or a sheen right here, S-H-I-N. Okay, so, but in Ugaritic, it's a T sound. Proto-Semitic, not sure what they've got there. Aramaic, it's more of a T sound too. Isn't that something? Okay. Then let's see, we've got seen, S-E-E-N or S-I-N. Well, that wouldn't be right there. Seen. It's like a long E sound, so it's probably best to have like this, seen, for this one here. So we've got S sound, okay. It looks like it's the same in Aramaic. Okay, so that stays the same. Looks like we've got another sheen here. That's Aramaic mirrors that as well, but it's interesting that there is a slight difference up here between Hebrew and Aramaic. Okay, Samech, S-A-M-E-C-H. Looks like it's got that same in Aramaic, S sound, S. Okay, so that's about the same. How about Zati? That's sort of a TS sound, Zati. Notice this, it's a T sound, a light T, tet in Aramaic. T sound versus TS. So there's a little bit of does not equal there. TS, 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 that's pretty much equal there. Another sati. Also, we have some variation there. We've got kof, just kind of a Q sound, and an ayin, sort of a silent. It's a silent one there. So looks like some of these do have some variation between Biblical Hebrew and Biblical Aramaic. All right, so in Biblical Aramaic and the Samic and the Scene were often used interchangeably, and both became Scene, Syriac. The use of specific examples in comparison of Biblical Hebrew and Biblical Aramaic cognates may best illustrate these developments. For Zayin 1, I guess that's the first one we saw on the chart, Biblical Hebrew has Zahav. That's how you pronounce that, Zahav. While Biblical Aramaic has Dahav. Okay, D-A-H-A-V. Okay, so there's like a difference here because in Biblical Aramaic, you got this D sound on this same word, but in Biblical Hebrew, it retains a Z sound, as in Zayin. Isn't that something? So for Zayin 2, Biblical Hebrew has Zahrav, and Biblical Aramaic has, no, that's Zahra. That's what that is, Zahra, because it's an ayin at the end. And it's the same thing here in Biblical Aramaic, Zahra. That's an A there. That should be a E there. Zera, Zera. It's almost the same here in Biblical Aramaic because it's got a shavah. So it's just a shorter eh sound versus the segol in Biblical Hebrew underneath. That 3 dots is a segol. So it's like eh sound. Okay. So then for Sheen 1, Biblical Hebrew has shalom or yashav, etc. While Biblical Aramaic has talat. Isn't that something? Or yativ, example. So some of these letters are different. The soundings, in other words, the same word, but it's a different, it's kind of like, have you ever heard Shabbos versus Shabbat? There's some Jews that say Shabbos, and some say Shabbat. It's a difference between an S and a T, but they're both saying the same thing. So I kind of think this is similar between Biblical and Hebrew and Biblical Aramaic. Okay, so then for Scene 2, we've got Biblical Hebrew has Eser, and Biblical Aramaic has Asar. So a little bit of difference. Your vowels are a little bit different. For Scene 3, Biblical Hebrew has looks like Lashot. Yeah, because that there is a whole M. That dot there. Lashot. Okay, that looks to me like a tav there at the end, all of the. And Biblical Aramaic has Lishan. Look at that. Okay, so there's some difference here. You've got an N sound here, you got a T Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I see what they've done here. This is kind of different here. This is la shon. Okay, I'm glad I caught that. That's wrong. La shon. And this is li shan. Let me clear that again. Again, I could see, it almost looked like a tav the way they put the script together, but no, it's lamed with kametz. And it's got your superlinear dot here, so that's, and then it's got an entire holem there. And then it's got a nun sofit. So it's lashon in biblical Hebrew, whereas biblical Aramaic has Lish A-N, Lishon. So Lishon, biblical Hebrew, Lishon, biblical Aramaic. Okay. All right, so for Zadi 1, biblical Hebrew has, it looks like Ziporin, while biblical Aramaic has Sephar or Tefar. That's a tet, looks like. Some of the printing is blurry a little bit, so it's kind of difficult to tell the letter. So we've got Tziporin, T-S-P-O-R-E, and that's a nun sofit there on the end. And biblical Aramaic has Tefar, T-E-F-A-R, I guess. Okay, so there's some differences there for Zadik 2. Biblical Hebrew and biblical Aramaic both have Etzba. Looks like Etzba. T-S-B-A. Can put an H on there. Etzba, because that's silent there at the end. Sadi 3 became Kof in early Aramaic and later became Ayin. Thus, biblical Hebrew has eights, that's tree, while biblical Aramaic has look at that. So that's the word for tree in biblical Aramaic, it must be. Okay, and then so this Zadik Sofit transforms into a Ayin, which is silent. Unless in Aramaic, it's not silent. I guess we'll have to figure that out because I'm just learning this too, along with all of you. So from we've got ayin, and from biblical Hebrew we get eretz. Okay, that's land. Biblical Aramaic has both arak and ara. Isn't that something? Okay. So in biblical Aramaic, as in biblical Hebrew, Proto-Semitic gayin and ayin have fallen together and are written ayin. Likewise, in both biblical Aramaic and biblical Hebrew, this looks like a chet. That's like C-H-E-T. I've seen it spelled out that way, but this is kind of a sound. Chet represents Proto-Semitic. Looks like it. They've got this H and H. Though fallen together, the correct pronunciation is, well, it's got to be that guttural because it's saying this in biblical Hebrew, and I know that that's chet. Or it's that it's not technically guttural. It's like a like you're hacking up sound. It's like this rough sound. Select phonetic rules for vowels. In the treatment of vowels, biblical Aramaic and biblical Hebrew developed along somewhat divergent lines, although there are also some similarities. The first three of the following rules represent especially important differences between biblical Aramaic and biblical Hebrew. Okay. So short vowels in a pretonic open syllable become shava, So that shava there, that's like if you have any Hebrew, you got this dot like that, two dots like that. And it has some functions to it. So biblical Hebrew, we've got shana and katal. Also biblical Aramaic, we've got shana and katal. Notice the difference here is there's not so much a sound. It's more like a slight eh sound. It's like a shava, so it's more like eh, but it's very short. So katal, there's katal and shana and shana and ketal. So it's a little bit different on the beginning letter, the vowel sound. Okay, so B, short A, enclosed accented final syllables remain short and is not lengthened as often is in biblical Hebrew. So kataba or katab, biblical Hebrew has mishkav. Biblical Aramaic has mishkav. Mishkav. Okay, so what's the difference here? Oh, okay, so maybe it's the difference here. This is a little longer. This is a little shorter. A sound, maybe? Okay, so let's see. In early Hebrew, the early Hebrew shift of A to O under the accent or tone does not occur in biblical Aramaic. Biblical Hebrew and nosh or tov. Biblical Aramaic becomes enash or tav. So there's the word for good in biblical Aramaic, tav, instead of tov in Hebrew. And then I wonder if that is a proper name, enosh, but it becomes enash. So it's like the O sound and the whole M becomes an A sound in biblical Aramaic. Interesting. Okay, D, the diphthong AW always becomes O in biblical Aramaic. So short, so short, this is E now. Short A in a closed unaccented syllable is retained next to a laryngeal. Otherwise, it frequently becomes, looks like I. F, short I in a closed unaccented syllable becomes segol before a laryngeal unless a doubled consonant follows. Otherwise, it is usually retained. Okay. Okay, so G. Short U in a closed unaccented syllable is either retained or becomes kametz hatuf. Okay, so kametz hatuf is like an O class vowel in Hebrew. Okay, H, short E in a closed, this is, well, it's an I, but I wonder what in a closed unaccented syllable is either retained or becomes serre. Serre is two dots like this, and it's AY sound. Okay, it's changed to segol before a makef. I think that makef is that bar that you sometimes see. So, in other words, if you've got any letter here, serre, which is an AY sound, if it's before a makef, that bar, it changes to segol, which changes it from A sound to S sound. Look at all these rules. I mean, this is why Hebrew and my goodness, Aramaic is just loaded with all these rules. And this is why it's really a lifetime study, but I find it interesting to do this. Okay, so short U and a closed unaccented syllable becomes holem in nouns. J, all short vowels become patach before final resh, het, and ayin. Okay. Let's see. A patak furtive is inserted between a heterogeneous long vowel and final he or het or ayin. I think that's probably they're doing het there. L. If two unaccented open short vowels precede the tone or accent, the pretonic vowel is completely syncopated, becomes silent shava. Okay. Where's that silent shava at? There it is right there. Okay, so after laryngeal, a reduced vowel is always a hataf, usually a hataf patach. Hataf patach, I'm trying to remember. Well, it's reduced patach. I think that's what they're saying there. So like you could have an ayin or a look at an aleph. This is a regular patach, but if you have a shava next to it, it becomes reduced. Hataf is reduced. Patach is that A class normally. A, AH, or like ah sound. Yeah, AH, ah sound. Like, let's see here. Like ma would make that mem plus patach, ma. But this hatef, now I think it's hataf, actually pronounced. Okay, so after the laryngeals, hey, het, and ayin at the end of an unaccented, let's move down here. Medial syllable, a hataf is inserted corresponding to the preceding vowel. Okay, so that hataf is reduced. It's, in other words, it throws a shava on there to reduce it. Okay, sometimes I've seen a segol that's reduced. That part there is the hataf. It's reduced. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And all of you students out there that have the fortitude to study this material, put some notes down there for me if you think I'm incorrect on something here. Let's see here. In Tiberian vocalization, there was an occasional pausal lengthening of a short vowel. P, the diphthong, looks like, let's see here. This here. So I think what they're going at here is like, let's say you have a bet. Okay, and then you have a patach, and then okay, so this A sound kind of mixes with like a long E, and you get bayi. So you might see that in bayit. Okay, if you put a tav on there, we get bayit. So these two sounds, that's a diphthong. It's kind of you're merging two vowel sounds together. Kind of develops as follows. Okay, so A, in a closed primary accent syllable, it becomes. Okay, so I think what they're getting at here, that symbol there is any letter at all. So really what we're looking at here is let's make it a bet and get rid of that there, and like that's what it would look like. By in a closed secondary accented syllable, it becomes, okay, so let's say you have a bet here. Now they've got a serre put there, so it's an AY sound with yod. Bay, kind of, and a close. Okay, so in a final open syllable, it becomes, well, it looks the same. It looks like that one because it's got serre down there, and you got your yod. In a medial open syllable, it is retained or becomes, Okay, it's adding this heric there. So let's say you have a bet. Here's your bet. There's your saray, AY sound. There's your yod, and then it adds a heric, bayi, instead of bayi, and a medial open syllable. Okay. All right, so Q. In Biblical Aramaic, the gentilic, it looks like gentilic ending is, okay, so we got a kametz with a yod. So in other words, let's just put a bet in there. We put a kametz and a yod rather than heric yod, as in biblical Hebrew. So it looks like the E sound kind of changes over to kind of an ah sound. All right, Biblical Aramaic. I'm probably not going to remember half these rules, but I'm going through them for the sake of it, because maybe something will stick as I go through further. All right, let's see here. Selected phonetic rules for consonants. Okay, so the beged kafet letters, there we go, that's what that is. Those are the ones that if you put a dot in, they kind of slightly change the hardening or the softening of it. Without the dot, normally softening; with the dot, kind of hardening. That's beged kafet. That's a mnemonic. Ged kafet, and it's taking the sounds of each of these letters. Becomes spirants after a vowel. This aspirantization is retained even when the vowel which caused it is dropped. Okay, a noon is often assimilated to a following consonant, even a laryngeal. 3, conversely, the doubling of a consonant is sometimes resolved by a noon, followed by the consonant in question. 4, final doubled consonants are simplified to single consonants. 5, final aleph, this is pieces. I'm trying to remember. That's not exactly how you pronounce that, but it could be pieces. In other words, it's silence. I think that means it makes it silent with the compensating lengthening of the preceding vowel. Okay, so we've got patak aleph, we've got kametz aleph, we've got heric aleph, we've got zaray aleph. Okay, also written, there's a kametz hey for kametz aleph, zaray yod. Okay, for, let me get rid of this here. Looks like it becomes zaray aleph. Okay, so whereas in a lot of cases, this silent hey at the end in Hebrew, I think that's what they're talking about. It changes it. In other words, it's not a hey. They put a aleph at the end, and so it's still a silent. I think that's what this means. It makes it silent, if I remember correctly from some of my other primers. Okay, so initially vav becomes heric yod. Interesting. Okay, so doubled consonants before a shabbat are simplified and the shabbat is eliminated. However, if the doubled consonant occurs before a full vowel in other forms of the word, then the doubling is usually retained before the shabbat, also by paradigmatic analogy. Okay, number 8. Laryngeals and resh are not doubled in Biblical Aramaic. In compensation, the preceding vowel may be lengthened as follows. Okay, so A, we've got always before aleph and resh. B, always before ayin. C, once in Biblical Aramaic before hey. That's this hey. That's what that's talking about. Ayin is that little letter there. Aleph, that there, and resh, that there. Okay. Never before chet. doubling in implicit. Okay, so in subsequent lessons, referring to these phonetic rules in lesson 1 will be abbreviated as follows. References to the rules for vowels. We've got 1C, 1Q, also references to the rules for consonants, 1, 2, looks like Roman numeral I, 2, 7, okay. All right, so now vocabulary, we've got some vocabulary here. Okay, so we've got the word for man or mankind. Looks like enash. The word for wood or beam looks like just I think. How about digit, toe, finger? It's ba, T-E-T-S-B-A-H, maybe? That's ba. The word for earth, I know in Hebrew it's eretz. It becomes ara. Look at that. Ara. Instead of eretz. Interesting. This is biblical Aramaic, remember. So there's some differences. At is a sign of miracle. Look at that, dahav. Well, in Hebrew, it's zahav for gold. But in Aramaic, it becomes dahav equals gold. Interesting. All right. Dar, generation, lifetime. Looks like deteh, grass. Palace or temple. Looks like Haykal. It's kind of like an AY, but E, Haykal. Probably Haykal, I bet you. H-A-I-C-H-A-L, maybe? We could transliterate that. Haykal. The word for seed, I know seed in Hebrew is zera, but look at in Aramaic, it's zera. Zera. And it's Z-E-R-E-H in Hebrew. So it's like an A sound versus an E, short E sound. Let's see, the word, look at this. In Aramaic, the word for good is tav versus tov in Hebrew. But it's tav is good in Aramaic. Okay, we've got tafar for finger or nail, claw. Yativ to sit, dwell. Kahain, look at that. You know what it is in Hebrew? It's kohen in Hebrew. Look, in Aramaic, it's kahain. It's an ah sound instead of an o. Kesaf in Aramaic, and I think in Hebrew, it's kesef. So it's like an S sound versus an ah. Okay. So look at that, lishon for tongue. I think it's lashon in Hebrew for tongue or language. Bed in Aramaic is mishkav. Prophet is neviah. I think it's just navi in Hebrew. We've got river is nahar. To give, natan. I think natan in Hebrew is to give, if I remember correctly. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. Alam, eternity, remote time. I think it's olam in Hebrew. You've heard leolam vaed, olam, eternity, continuing on into perpetuity. Well, in Aramaic, it's alam. A-H-L-A-H-M, I guess. I can. All right. 10 is asar, to kill, katal. Now this is tricky here because this looks similar. I'm going to go with call, voice or sound, but this says number 4. So let's take a look at that real quick and just see if we can figure out what's going on here. What's this number 4 here? Final doubled consonants. Consonants are simplified to, is it that 4 or is it one of these 4s? Okay, yeah, it's got to be number 4 there. All right, because voice or sound in Hebrew is kol. It's an O sound. But in Aramaic, we've got something different here. I think it's call, maybe. Okay, for year, shana, to return, we've got tet, vav, vet, to return. So that's like a verb root. We've got tor is ox or bull. Here's the word for 3, talat. Here's there, tama, shekel. Look at that. Instead of a sheen, it's a tav, tekel, T-E-Q-A-Y-L, tekel in Aramaic. And I think it's S-H-E-K-E-L sound in Hebrew, shekel, tekel. Okay. Okay, so here's some exercises. Write out the corresponding biblical Hebrew cognates of the words found in the vocabulary. Point out the divergencies in the development of the consonants wherever this has occurred. Also, for each word in the vocabulary list, the letter or number of the phonetic rule or rules as given above, which apply to that word. Wow. Well, you know, you pick up what you can and you do what you can. All right, so now we're at lesson 2. Okay, so I think that's probably a good place to stop. If you have benefited from any of our teachings and you would like to sort of sow into the kingdom ministry, you can go to hmisrael.com. Okay, hmisrael.com. Go to these 3 dots here, go to donate, and there's your donation information. You can send PayPal to shul@hmisrael.com, or you can just click on this button. But we appreciate all of you out there that are earnest students, and we hope that you'll continue to learn, because it's like the Chinese proverb says, either a man or woman, this can apply to, one should not be afraid of moving ahead slowly. One should only be afraid of standing still. So I would encourage all of you out there that if you're standing still, if you're not increasing in understanding, if you're not applying yourself to disciplines, if you're not moving ahead in the kinds of things that can help you understand the words of our Heavenly Father, then you're standing still, and you should be afraid of that, because our Father wants us to move ahead, even if we're moving ahead slowly. So with all of that, I want to wish you a good blessing, and I hope that we will see you again. Shalom, shalom.